Good morning. This is Bobby Bull with the Production Support Office in the Office of Design. Thank you for joining us for the Concurrent PD&E and Design Phase Scoping webinar. Just a couple things before we get into it. Today's broadcast will be recorded. In a couple of weeks, we'll be having it posted on the Scope of Services webpage. This will also be in Learning Curve. We also intend on getting the PDF out to all the attendees of today's webinar, and this information will also be posted within Learning Curve. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can enter them into the question box, and we will be having our panelists work on those questions for you throughout the presentation. If we need to, we will also have a Q&A session after Victor is done with this presentation. Reminder, there are no PDHs associated with this webinar, so we will not be doing anything, issuing anything after this course. So now we'll go ahead and get into our webinar. Today's speaker will be Victor Mucharuza. He is the supervisor of the Engineering and Review section of the Office of Environmental Management. He's responsible for the development of procedures and guidance related to PD&E studies. Prior to joining FDOT, Victor worked on numerous transportation projects in the private sector. So for that, we'll hand it over to Victor.
Thank you, Bobby Bull. Today, we're going to be having a lot of information regarding developing scope of services for projects that have a concurrent PD&E phase and design phase. So the purpose of the training is teaching you how to create the scope of services for projects with concurrent PD&E and design phases, where both phases are procured in one contract. So the emphasis there is one contract has both PD&E and design. Outline of the training today, we're going to start with talking more about a project delivery process for concurrent phases, and the concurrent phases are design and PD&E. Then we're going to be jumping on how we created the standard scope of services for concurrent PD&E design, hoping that if you understand how we create the standard scope of services for these concurrent phases, you will be able to develop a scope of services for your project which has to both phases combined. Then we're going to be moving over talking about staff hour estimates and staff hour estimation guidelines. How did we update them? And the forms also were updated. And then lastly, we're going to be talking a little bit about the tools and guidance that we prepare to help you develop the scope of services for concurrent phases. So before we dive into materials we are presenting, we want to make sure that you understand what is concurrent phases. So concurrent phases means, in this context, both PD&E and design phases are procured in one contract. That is, you'll have one contract with both PD&E study and design services. Concurrent phases also mean combined phases. PD&E study is combined with design services, again in one contract. What concurrent phase is not a PD&E study with an option for design services. Most of you, if not a lot of you, have been doing PD&E study with an option for design services for many years. But this standard scope of services, which we're going to be presenting today, is not PD&E study with an option for design services. So now we've been doing this for many years. Outline of the traditional project development process, focusing on a pre-construction process. You start from planning and programming of your project, and then we do more of environmental screening through ETDM screening, EST2. We use the information from planning and ETDM screening to scope PD&E study, and then we advertise to acquire the consultant who's going to be doing PD&E study. Then we move into the PD&E phase where we create the environment. The end goal is approval of a PD&E study by accepting location design concept approval. And then we use PD&E study approval to scope design phase of that project, and then we advertise the project, we select the consultant, and then the consultant do design, and if there are new right-of-way required, the right-of-way phase can be procured or start somewhere after 60% design plans. And then after that, the project will move to construction. So if you look at this process, all the phases are completed in series. What we realize that there are some PD&E activities that are repeated during design, and also there are some PD&E activities that should have been done in planning, so there's some repetition also in this process. And the concurrent phase is going to be looking like what is displayed here in the screen. So we've moved the PD&E and combined with design. We're going to be doing both PD&E study and design services together. So we're going to be using the information from planning and ETDM screening to scope the project, and then advertise and procure the consultant who will be able to do both PD&E and design. And after the PD&E is approved, that's when right-of-way phase will start. Again, under this contract, PD&E and design will be performed concurrently in order to accelerate project delivery. However, following this process, there are some risks that you should be aware of. There are some risks related to the scope. If you did not scope it very well, probably you're not going to be successful in this project. The schedule also, how you're going to be able to line up activities to support a NEPA approval, as well as design plans for your project, and also the cost. If you don't do very well on scope and schedule, ultimately you have some issues with the cost. So one condition to perform concurrent phases is that both phases, PD&E and design, must be funded concurrently in the same year. So by the time you program your project, you have to program both PD&E and design together. Also, the caveat of that, which is a big requirement, I'm going to be emphasizing this requirement later, is that the final design activities, which is preparation of phase 3 and phase 4 design plan, will not start until NEPA is cleared. A question, does FHWA allow concurrent phases in the project delivery process? The answer is yes. FHWA allow concurrent phases as supported by Everyday Count Initiative and SHAP2 program. This also has been allowed by FHWA's policy on permissible project-related activities during NEPA process, which was released under FHWA Order 6640.1a. And also concurrent PD&E and design are allowed under Title 23 Code of Federal Register, Section 771.113a, which is the timing of NEPA approvals. In terms of funding, we don't have any problem there from our FHWA perspective, because both PD&E and design are funded by preliminary engineering funds. Preliminary design activities can be performed concurrent with NEPA. That's what FHWA say. However, final design activities must not proceed until NEPA has been approved. So if you look into detail to Title 23 of Code of Federal Register, Section 771.113, it states that the lead agencies, in cooperation with the applicant and project sponsor as appropriate, will perform work necessary to complete environmental review process, which is PD&E. This work includes drafting environmental documents and complete environmental study, related engineering studies, agents coordination, public involvement, and the identification of mitigation measures, except as otherwise provided in law or in paragraph B of this section. And that section section is 771.113. Then final design activities, property acquisition, purchase of or construction material or rolling stock or project construction must not proceed until the following has been completed. Number one, administration has classified as a CE, which is categorical exclusion, a FONSI, finding of no significant impact from EA, or administration has issued the combined final EIS road or final EIS in the road. So these are the conditions which are regulated by FHWA and allow us to overlap PD&E and design, but at the same time, prevent us from performing any final design activities before we clear NEPA. So we have to stop at around 60% plans or physical plans before we can approve NEPA. So modification, you overlap PD&E and design, and then when you complete your PD&E, your design should be about or not more than phase 2 plans or 60% design plans. Everything which is being done before 60% design plans will be preliminary design, and everything after that will be final design activities. If you go further and read the definition of a preliminary design and final design are codified at Title 23 Code of Federal Register, Section 636.103. They define final design as any design activities following preliminary design, and expressly includes the preparation of final construction plans and detailed specifications for performance of construction work. And the code also defines preliminary design as the general location and design concept, which includes but not limited to preliminary engineering and other activities and analysis supporting that. As most of you who are doing PD&E, you'll know that the approval of a PD&E is granting the location and design concept approval. So the general project location design is related to preliminary design or preliminary engineering. And also the engineering guiding document we prepare from PD&E is preliminary engineering report. Then FHWA Order 6640.1A directs the state DOT, FDOT in our case, and other contracting agencies that they may perform preliminary design activities prior to a NEPA decision regardless of the project delivery mechanism that is being used. However, final design activities may not advance until a NEPA decision has been issued. So emphasizing that you can combine design activities and NEPA, which is PD&E, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you're not continuing to prepare final design activities until PD&E is approved. So about 4 years ago, we met with FHWA talking about their order on permissible preliminary engineering activities, and they looked at our table, which is a summary of phase submittals, and they told us that everything which is a P, which is preliminary, can be categorized as preliminary design activities. So from our table 301.21 from FDM, all these activities which are P are preliminary design activities, and they can be combined with PD&E study activities. Phase 2 or phase 4 plans are not preliminary design activities. These are final design activities, and they should not be combined with PD&E. So we talk about FHWA, which means that there are federal actions. What if we don't have federal action? If we don't have federal action, we prepare an environmental document called State Environmental Impact Report, or SEIR. With SEIR, there is no limitation to the level of design plans which may be completed concurrent with PD&E, which means that you can prepare a SEIR with 100% phase 4 plans. However, someone who is taking that decision has to consider risk associated with advancing final design activities with a SEER, specifically if a federal permit is involved, because if a federal permit is involved, NEPA may be required. Contracting methods for PD&E and design combined projects. There are always 4 options that the district can procure, and central office does not dictate on one option or the other. The district has their decision to choose which option should be used in their projects, depending on the context of their projects and other funding mechanisms. So we're going to continue to have a standalone PD&E study followed by a standalone design, as we do in most of our projects now. Or the district can have a dual procurement of PD&E and design phases. And this can be performed as one contract with PD&E, for PD&E with an option for design, as some of the projects has been done right now. Or you can have 2 overlapping contracts, which means that you have one contract for PD&E and another contract for design, and these contracts can be let simultaneously or they can be let in overlap. Some of the projects have this type of contract. Or now they can have an option to have one contract with both PD&E and design when funded together. And then one contract with both PD&E and design funded together is the purpose of this webinar. So when we advertise our combined PD&E and design, we'll have one contract which will have both PD&E group, which is 2.0, and design, which will be 3.2 or 4.2.2, etc. The contract agreement, scope of services, and schedule for these projects, if there are federal actions, must indicate that no final design activities will proceed beyond phase 2 plans without NEPA approval. So that's the condition that the consultant will need to know when they are negotiating the contract with the department. What about concurrent phases in design and bid projects? So this exhibit here is going to show you how the concurrent phases will work in the design bid projects. As a matter of fact, the design bid project is also overlapping phases where you overlap final design and construction. We've been doing this for many years now. So now you have an opportunity also of overlapping PD&E and preliminary design, and use that information to prepare your design build RFP. Keep in mind that you cannot proceed to final design without NEPA approval. The requirement of Title 23 Code of Federal Register, Section 606, must be met in all design bid projects. Some of those requirements related to NEPA state design bid contracts must have a termination clause if the no bid alternative is selected after NEPA analysis, and also design bid firm must not prepare NEPA documents. So these requirements are not new. They are part of the design build boilerplate. What is new is that we can do PD&E and design combined, and we can use that information to prepare RFP. So what are the benefits of performing design PD&E concurrently? You'll hear a lot. Streamline, accelerate the process. So we will streamline project activities in pre-construction phases, identify issues, areas through cross-functional reviews, either through scoping meetings or SWOT meetings, whatever you have. Eliminate redundancy or rework of project activities, as I alluded when I started showing the traditional process, and also we can eliminate irrelevant project activities. So we're going to be streamlining all these project development activities. At the same time, we are not cutting corners. We will be meeting legal and regulatory requirements, some of the requirements I discussed earlier. So the next presentation is regarding how we develop scope of services for projects with concurrent phases. While I'm going through the slides, you should be reminded by the quote coming from Shigeo Shingo, who used to be the chief of Toyota production system. He said, the most dangerous kind of waste is the waste we don't know. So the need for standard scope of services for concurrent phases started in about 2014 through statewide acceleration transformation or SWAT initiative, where the department had contracted McKinsey to look at our processes and recommend on the ways where we can do our projects more efficiently. So one of the recommendations of a McKinsey study was performing PD&E and design phases concurrently. Similar efforts to streamline PD&E and design were recommended by District 4 as part of their SHARP 2 C19 grant, and also District 4 did a value engineering for PD&E process review and made similar recommendations. Additionally, FDOT has since completed several projects with concurrent phases. These projects were coined as SWAT projects. However, in all those projects which were completed with concurrent PD&E and design phases, there were no standard scope of services for developing the scope for those projects. Why do we need standard scope of services is guided by our own procedure, which states that both department consultant project managers will utilize standard scope of services and staff hour estimation guidelines in scoping and negotiating all consultant contracts for PD&E studies and design services. So this work is in line with this procedure to make sure that we create a standard where both the department and the consultant can use while they are negotiating their projects. We had one goal, and the goal was to prepare scope of services with design and PD&E study combined. So we take scope of services for PD&E and add scope of services for design. We create one combined scope which has both PD&E study and design services combined. I want to emphasize here again, this is not a PD&E study with an option for design, which a lot of you are aware of that and have done that. So we're going to be creating a new thing, which is one scope with both PD&E study and design services combined. So these are the steps that we followed. We identify typical projects that may have a maximum benefit for combined phases. Keep in mind the risk which I mentioned earlier of the scope, schedule, and cost. We identify project activities that overlap PD&E design. We wanted to keep or track both PD&E group as well as the design work types. We involved a special task team composed of FDOT districts and consultant, Association of Consulting Engineering Companies of Florida. They used to be called FICE. And this team had both PD&E and design experience. We reviewed the scope language that overlapped and decided on appropriate location to scope, either PD&E or design. We revised and modified the language as appropriate, and also we revised staff hour estimation guidelines, and also we revised staff hour forms. So if you look at the overlapping activities, this Venn diagram kind of like I show you how the activities overlap if you combine both PD&E and design. And this is a list of activities that are overlapping. Public involvement, roadway analysis, drainage analysis, utility, evaluation, structure analysis, signalization, ITS, lighting, landscape, survey, photogrammetry, geotechnical investigation, noise analysis, contamination, a lot of documentation, which means that these activities are being done now in PD&E study and also are being done in design. So they are overlapping. So the most underlying question was in which phase should we effectively scope these activities? Now we know them. So to get to answer to that question, we review district scopes and other states processes that overlap PD&E and design. I'll stop here and say that this was the most daunting exercise. Took a lot of our time to come to decide where to scope public involvement activities, where to scope roadway analysis activities which overlap both PD&E and design, such that those activities will support development of roadway plans, at the same time support development of the NEPA document, which means alternative analysis, environmental impacts, as well as environmental course of action documentation. This was the goal. So in doing that, as I said, it was most daunting activity, was very complicated. Some of the members in the team could attest that. What we wanted is not to create a significant learning burden to practitioners, because if we complicate it, then the standard scope is not going to be usable. So we wanted to simplify the process. And also we learned from other stage processes that overlap PD&E design. How do they streamline the environmental phase with design phase? So this was our approach. If you look at the PD&E scope of services and the design scope of services, you realize that design has about 37 sections and PD&E has 7 sections. So it makes sense to maintain integrity of activities in the roadway standard scope of services, which has a lot of sections, and then take those PD&E activities and merge them within the roadway standard scope of services. After merging them, we look for ways to eliminate redundancies from the overlapping activities and scoping those overlapping activities as either design activity or PD&E activity. Okay, so this is how PD&E activities will fit into design. So you have a preliminary design, which I provide the definition. We do a lot of preliminary engineering in PD&E. There's a lot of overlap there. So all those activities which are related to preliminary engineering will be scoped under preliminary design. And then PD&E study will continue to have activities related to environmental studies, alternative analysis, and preparation of environmental documents. Look at the public involvement. We have public involvement for both PD&E and design, so we'll have public involvement for a project, and the project will have both phases, PD&E and design. And then combining preliminary design and PD&E study will help us prepare phase 2 plans, and at the same time, we'll create NEPA or obtain NEPA approval. And then after that, we'll move into final design, which is preparation of construction plans. And then if we have to acquire additional right-of-way, we can have right-of-way acquisition phase. I will go on with obtaining our permits, and of course, public involvement will continue. We'll use information from planning, including ETDM screening, as we do now, to help us scope these projects. If you look at the big picture, this slide here is very busy, has a lot of information. Technically, it shows you some of those activities we have in the scope of services, how now they can be overlapped. Specifically showing you where PD&E activities will fit into design activities. Okay, so take a design project right now and think on where you're going to be able to do alternative screening, alternative evaluation, environmental studies, and prepare type 2 NEPA document or CL documents. So as you can see that the green ones here, these 3 activities are related to PD&E or will support PD&E. However, there's a lot of interrelationship between the design activities supporting, let's say, alternative evaluation, like conceptual drainage, preliminary roadway design. All those can help with the identification of alternative and evaluation of alternatives. Value engineering, if is needed, can be done concurrently with alternative evaluation, environmental studies, and preliminary engineering design at around the phase 1 plans. And then phase 2 plans, by the time you have phase 2 plans, you have to receive NEPA approval before you proceed into preparation of phase 3 and phase 4 plans. We'll be providing more guidance regarding this exhibit right here. However, the district and the consultants have flexibility in scheduling these activities. We are not dictating that these activities should be like that. For instance, the NEPA approval may happen at phase 1. So if the district and the consultant decide that they want to do NEPA approval by completion of phase 1, that is possible. What they cannot be doing is NEPA approval to happen, let's say, at phase 4, if that is not a SEER. So the district can schedule these projects appropriately, depend on the context of their projects. Typical projects that can have both PD&E design combined. These are the projects with fewer environmental issues and lesser engineering complexity. Okay, so those who are doing PD&E projects now, they know that most of the projects will be Type 2 CE or Type 2 categorical exclusion projects. And of course, all SEER will have an opportunity of overlapping PD&E design. The caveat is that you have to have both phases, PD&E and design, funded concurrently, funded together in the same year. So class of action is a Type 2 or SEER. You can overlap PD&E and design. Roadway projects where only one build alternative is evaluated against no build alternative. Most of these projects will have a class of action of Type 2. The projects that do not involve complex interchanges and intersection modifications can be scoped under concurrent PD&E design phase. And most of the bridge replacement projects that do not involve construction of segmental bridges or movable span bridges. Also, all those category 2 bridges are not allowed under this process. If a project is an EA or an EAS, also is not allowed under this process. As I said earlier, remember, both PD&E design must have been programmed concurrently the same year. Final design, which is the preparation of phase 3 and phase 4, shall not start until NEPA is approved. Okay, so the team members which help us with development of this standard scope of services are 16 people, 8 consultants, 8 districts, 8 with PD&E experience and 8 with design experience. We had 4 central office staff for production support, roadway design, and environmental management. We met 12 different times. The team met 12 different times between February last year and February this year. We review all activities and tasks for combined scope of services. Also, we reviewed associated staff estimation guidelines. We engage in solicited feedback from central office staff, district staff, and consultant community on the proposed scope, language, and staff hour estimation guidelines. These are the team. The consultant efforts were led by Jeff Novotny from American, Silva Betry from Stantec, Rosemary Woods from Atkins, Ray Sois-Rios from Carabino, Ben Force, DRMP, Martin McKees from HMTB, Tom Priestley, KCA, and Nick Benedicto from Tetra Tech. And then the districts were represented by Heather Gubert, Stephen Browning, Gwen Pippin, Datune, Alina Webb, Babs Jung, Brianna Myers, and Suzanne Sadigi. Central Office, Bobby Boo, Marge Kirby, Ben Guerrero, and myself. And of course, I want to recognize 2 FDOT staff who started this effort, and now they crossed the boundary to go to the consultant community, Martha Hudson and Amy Summers. I want to thank everybody who had worked on this effort. As I said, that was a lot of work, a lot of going back and forth for almost a year to finishing up with the product that we are presenting now. So the approach, we started with the scope of services for design projects. We moved and merged PD&E activities that overlap in the corresponding design activities. Fortunately, this worked well for majority of the items, but there were some specific items to PD&E that we needed to modify. Recognize and remove redundancies throughout merge activities, and also we revise staff estimation guidelines and the forms to match the new scope language and activities. We considered carefully to make sure that the hours and the work description took into account both efforts for PD&E and design. So which means that there are some of the hours which went up and some went down as a result of those merging activities. Table of contents comparison, I think now you start to see how we combine pretty much visually. So this is a design scope of services as it is now. As I said earlier, it has about 37 sections. So we took PD&E studies activities and merged into the design scope of services to create a combined scope. So that is a combined scope. What we did, we modified the first 3 activities on design scope of services. Basically, we combined 1 and 2 to create 1 purpose and project description, which free up 2. Then we moved 3 to 2 to be project common and general task, and then we broke 2 to be 2A and 2B, and used 3 to insert PD&E related activities. So redundancies for each scoping item. Of course, 8 also changed slightly, which is environmental permits. As you see now, we have environmental permits, compliance and clearances. All the clearance now will move into 3. Some drainage analysis is needed to support PD&E, and also roadway analysis also needed to support PD&E, as we'll explain later on. So this slide here shows how PD&E activities were revised. Okay, so on the left is the existing or standalone PD&E scope of services. On the right is how those activities are scoped under concurrent PD&E and design phase concurrently. 1 and 2, which is scope of services and purpose, and project description and objective, were merged into 1 purpose and project description. Public involvement was merged into public involvement, the new public involvement 2B, and then engineering analysis and consideration were moved into 3A, preliminary engineering analysis, 4, roadway analysis, 6A, drainage, 7, utilities and railroad, and 10, bridge development report. Environmental analysis and report now will be 3B, environmental analysis and report, and of course we took noise and merged into 32. Environmental document will be 3C, environmental document. How design activities were revised. Okay, so the purpose we combine, the purpose combined with project description now. Section 2, which was a project description, we added PD&E related information, and then general common task we broke into A, and which is project common and general task, and 2, public involvement. 4, which is a roadway analysis, we added most of the preliminary engineering tasks. 6A, we added preliminary engineering tasks. Environmental permits, we moved all environmental clearance back to PD&E tasks, which is activity 3B and 3C. Bridge development report, we added a preliminary engineering related tasks. Segmental concrete bridges, and then movable span structures. This will not be applicable for this project, so we remove them from the scope. However, we kept the numbers, so to maintain the integrity, the numbers are maintained. So the 2, which is a noise barrier impact assessment, we added PD&E noise analysis. So with all those moves, and to make sure that the learning curve is not that steep, is more gentle, we created a crosswalk tool to compare the tasks in the new scope for concurrent phases with a standard scope for design and PD&E. So we have crosswalk tables for pretty much all the activities that we combine. And those tables will be made available for you so that you can see how we mark them as we transition to combine those two phases. So this is an example of a crosswalk table for 2A, which is now common task and general task. It shows the task in the new scope, the task name, and then the notes on how we combine. If it's a straight line combine, we did not make some notes, kind of like it's obvious, or if we did not put any notes. So you'll see some notes that kind of guide you on how we combine them. And then towards the right, there is existing, which is standalone scope. Probably may need to find some better naming here. So for standalone design scope, 3, for instance, activity 3 corresponds to now to 2A, which is a project common task. And then if you look at the PD&E scope, that will be 2.2.8. Okay, so if you're looking from the PD&E perspective, okay, go look at 2.2.8, okay, then you'll find it under 2A.1. From the design perspective, that will be 3, you'll find it 2.2A.1. So we did the same for pretty much all the activities in a 2A. So here I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to demonstrate how we merge those two activities. Okay, so this is the document that we merge. Actually, I can start from the very beginning so that you see the big picture. Okay, so the title is to recognize that there is a PD&E study and design services. Some of the information we're kind of like cleaning the language as a result of the change. So, which is a PD&E study approval, NEPA clearance, as other states, for the project concurrent with the preparation of phase 2 design plans. So you prepare phase 2 design plans with PD&E at the same time. And then we added a lot of information related to PD&E. So most of these edits were related to PD&E. Modified. Now 1.3, we have PD&E study, scope activities. All these activities can support activity 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 7, 10, and 32. I'm not going to go into detail about this. You're welcome to read them, but they're there. This one will be. Okay, so I want to go to 2A. Okay, so obtaining, and also we emphasize the date that environmental document is anticipated, such that all the activities can be, the activity leading to phase 2 plans can be scoped to match that date. Okay, this is another big change from what we have now. This one here has a list of pretty much every document or statute or regulation that we have to follow to prepare our projects. We realized that we kind of lost track of some of these regulations because they change pretty much every day. So what we've done is similar to what specification office did, of saying that the consultant will prepare the project must comply with all applicable department manuals and guidelines. And we're assuming that whoever is qualified to do the job for us will know which guidelines they need to follow. So all these lists have been deleted because most of them were outdated. As you can see, there are 4 pages of services performed by the PD&E and general tasks. This was taken from the design. So the name kind of saying formula 3, activity 3, or section 3 of the scope. If you want to compare, you can go to section 3 to add activities related to PD&E study. Okay, so public involvement is all 2B. PD&E will require preparation of community awareness plan. And that plan in design, community awareness plan or CAP, has different levels. So under combined phases, we'll have only one plan, public involvement plan. That plan will be a living document and will be updated throughout PD&E and Design. Will consist of both activities to support PD&E preliminary design as well as the final design activities. So if you don't see the CAP, know that the CAP is the same as a public involvement plan. So all these activities were taken from, most of them were taken from PD&E, and then we merge the CAP-related activities into PD&E. So we pretty much covered both phases together. Three modification letters, median modification letters, all those are required by design scope. So we still have them, but now they've slightly changed the section to be 2B5, 2B6, etc. The meetings, we'll continue to have those meetings, probably more, because we may have environmental related meetings. Public hearing is the same, whether it's being done in design or so all the requirements for PD&E, whether it's state requirement or federal requirement, has to be met as applicable. Okay, so presentation, which is about combined activities as they support both PD&E and design. A public involvement plan include a CAP for final design. We don't say CAP, we just say public involvement plan. It's all about involving the public, involving the agencies, involving the community. The name is going to be slightly changed from the folks who've never done PD&E, but it's going to be the same information as we see it right now. Okay, so I've already demonstrated that. Then we move to 3A, which is a preliminary engineering analysis supporting PD&E. And when I say supporting PD&E, it means that supporting environmental impact analysis, alternative analysis, as well as the preparation of an NEPA document and location design concept approval of that PD&E. So these are the activities related to preliminary engineering activities. The activities are the same as what we are doing now. If you don't see that activity, know that that activity has been moved to somewhere else. Activity related to existing conditions, previous studies, traffic analysis, all those will remain to be here. However, activities related to roadway analysis in PD&E will be moved into section 4, which is roadway analysis. That's why for most of these activities, you don't see anything on design scope. It's kind of corresponding to what we had now in the design scope. If an activity is missed, know that we have it somewhere else in the design scope. Preliminary engineering analysis activities continues. So now I'm going to go back to the standard scope 5 to demonstrate how we change those. So 3A will be preliminary engineering analysis. Right now it indicates everything new, but most of these are taken from PD&E studies, but we show them here as new because now they are merged into the design scope. So we're going to continue to evaluate or review previous studies, evaluate existing conditions, prepare base maps. We'll continue to do that. Methodology, collect traffic count, the vehicle can obtain multimodal data related to pedestrian, bicycle, transit, freight, speed delay studies, and then if there's micro simulation, you have to collect calibration and validation data for micro simulation, evaluate existing operation conditions, perform calibration of the model if it's micro simulation, perform a no-build analysis, and then develop and screen of alternatives, we need to capture that. Keep in mind that we said earlier that most of the projects which will be following this process will have one build alternative. So when you come to the scope of this, pretty much you know what you're going to be doing. However, per NEPA regulation, you need to capture alternative analysis, and that alternative analysis could simply be comparison of a no build and build alternative. So, and sometimes you may need to tweak that alignment or make some modification here and there. So this activity will continue to capture the effort associated with that. Operation evaluation of build alternative also is going to continue to be there, and then we will continue to require preparation of traffic analysis report as we do now. If the project involves interchange, whether it's in the interstate or is in the other freeway, you can have that interchange access request by our own guidelines. Preparation of the noise data, traffic data for air quality, traffic analysis, near lane crossing. This is new. It's not available in the current scope of services, but there was a need to have that specializing traffic analysis. Tolling concept is not new, and then safety analysis is not new. We're going to continue to do like what you're doing now in a PD&E study, as well as the documentation of that. So alternative evaluation will continue to be documented. And now we're going to go to, so environmental analysis and reporting will be activity 3B and 3C. 3B, environmental analysis and report. This most likely is coming from PD&E. However, we took some of the activities from Section 8, which is permits and environmental clearance. So you see asbestos and metal-based coating is coming from 8. Reevaluation of PD&E, we'll continue to do reevaluation if for some reason we did not do a good job on coming up with those clearance, and now in final design we'll have to make changes. Our expectation is that we'll have fewer changes because you'll be able to find both two phases together, and hopefully construction also will be funded closely. So this type of reevaluation will be minimum, not those major design change reevaluation that we do most of the time right now. Okay, so going back to the scope for services document, environmental analysis and report, most of this text is coming from PD&E scope of services. No big changes other than clarification. We realize that there are some errors in by orders, water quality, physical effects will continue to be like what we do now. Cumulative effect of the time, cumulative effect evaluation is needed, and because of the scope and scale of this project, pretty much this one is not going to be needed. That's why we say this may be an optional service. Commitment to the courts, you have to complete that as we require in our PD&E processes. Environmental document, it has to be one of the two, either type 2 CE or environmental document, so you have to pick one of the other, depends on the federal nexus. Planning consistency, we'll continue to prepare planning consistency as we do now. As you will see that we just moved planning consistent from environmental analysis or engineering analysis to be environmental document because it's one of the requirements for documentation. And then we added PD&E evaluation and clean up our language a little bit to clarify and focus that scope. And these are the things that most likely will need to be analyzed in reevaluation. So now we can move to roadway analysis. which is activity 4. So we made, I would say, probably significant changes into loadway analysis when we took loadway analysis activities supporting PD&E studies, design controls and criteria. Right now, we don't have that as a line item in the scope, but in PD&E scope of services, that is 410.1. So 4.1 is the design control and criteria. Number one, you have to have it. You have to agree with district design engineers of the controls and criteria that you're going to be using. Typical section, we broke it into 2 sections. Typical section analysis, which is taken from 410.2 of PD&E studies, and then the package, which currently in a standalone is 4.1, PD&E is 4.18.4. So those 2 activities now will be under typical section. Geometric design is broken into 3. It's the development of design options, which must include the multimodal accommodation supporting PD&E related activities from PD&E current task 410.3 and 410.6. Okay, so the number now kind of come together. 4 is a PD&E engineering analysis, 4 is a loadway engineering analysis. Hopefully you'll be able to follow and not be confused. Then 4.6.2, which is horizontal vertical master files, 4.5, nothing has been changed there other than clarifying a little bit. Alternative concept plans, we added that one. It's related to geometric design. That one is coming from 4.18.2 of a PD&E studies. And our thinking here is that you need to have some design options. You need to have vertical and horizontal files before you can come up with a concept plan. Okay, so move that in there. From PD&E, we'll be capturing that. The same information that you're going to be using to develop design option, you'll be using to develop horizontal vertical design files. At the same time, you'll be able to prepare those concept plans that you can carry with you in a public meeting, so meetings with other agencies relevant to the project. Access management from PD&E is 410.5, and then design is 4.6, so we combine them together under 4.7. Intersection and interchanges, we've added we've added intersection and interchange concept evaluation, which we have in PD&E as 410.4. Roundabout, as we have now, is 4.7, and also in PD&E covered under 410.4. So now at least you can see how those activities were merged together. Design report is still there, but criteria, we move the criteria out of the report that because now will be scoped as a line item as 4.1. And of course, cost estimates will include LRE costs and the lateral costs for PD&E alternative evaluation. So now I'm going to be jumping into the scope file to show you how loadway analysis task would work. 4.1, that's the new thing we added, design control and criteria, taken from PD&E, streamline a little bit. Typical section analysis taken also from PD&E, and also typical section packages remain the same. You have to prepare that typical section package prior to phase 1 submittal. Pavement type selection report, nothing changed. Now it's 4.3. Design, pavement design package, nothing has changed. Geometric design, horizontal and vertical files, we kind of like clarify that they may have some concept from previous studies that you need to be aware of while you're developing those plans. And then we added alternative concept plans, overlaying alternatives that were evaluated in details. Interchanges and roundabout evaluation, the traffic count, because this one traffic count from activity 3A, so that was a redundancy over there. If you have to go collect a pedestrian volume, posted speed limit, delay counts, all those are part of traffic study, temporary control plans analysis. We clarified the amount of work which we needed from the environmental clearance perspective. You need to have some of alternatives. So keep in mind that we're on 5. We can continue to do what we're doing in 5. At the same time, everything we're doing now in 5 will support PD&E efforts. So 6A changed pretty much significantly, but not that significant. What does that mean? Okay, this is the area where we saw a lot of repetition. Okay, many of you who are drainage engineers, you're aware of that. We do pond setting analysis in PD&E, and then during design, everything is thrown away. We start over again. So the pond setting analysis is going to be done once, and it's going to be supporting environmental clearance at the same time supporting preparation of our final plans. So that's why you see a lot of overlap. Pretty much all the columns are covered. Drainage map, hydrology, base clearance and calculation. I believe we added end report. Previously, we did not have report. We are required to prepare base clearance calculation report. So we'll be both analysis and reporting. Corresponding task for that is 4.14.2. Pond setting analysis and report. We have now in the same area, but we've added the information from PD&E, which is 4.14.4. Now I'm going to be moving to show you how that significant changes has changed, not that significant. Confusing you. Sorry. Okay, so the roadway plans for this case, the roadway plans did not change because we're going to be continue to prepare the plans, phase 1 plans, phase 2 plans as we've done that. Those ones will not be affected by combining environmental and design. So 6A, like a drainage map, hydrology, which we are doing in PD&E and design, we are repeating it. So nothing has been changed over there. This is an example where I say that you see a lot of overlap, but literally we're doing the same thing 2 times. There's clearance calculation and report, so we added that report over there, and then some clarification was added in the scope language. Pond setting analysis and report. Most of this language emphasize me. You'll see environmental look around there. If did not come up with any regional pond opportunities. Design of cost drain, ditches, storm, nothing significant change, similar type of things. Floodplain and environmental permit drainage data collection. We kind of emphasize on what needs to be done there. To location hydraulics report, any perspective of PD&E documentation. We added there bridge hydraulics. We clarify some language on bridge hydraulics report. Of course, as I say, drainage plans will not change since we're going to be continuing to prepare drainage plans as we've done in the past. So come section 8, which the environmental clearance or reevaluation, and put it back to where it belongs right now under 3C. As you see that there is no PD&E task related information, but when I was discussing 3C, you saw that there are some of the activity which came from 8. So I'm going to be going back to the standard scope of services to show you 8. So we change the title to be just environmental permits. And then the permits now will be identified in section 1.6 and also section 3B. So the idea here is most of the data that we analysis will hopefully be current and able to support environmental permits application. So we're not going to be doing 2 times. If we do it at the appropriate time of the year, we're going to be doing only once. So the update is not going to be as significant as we do now. So for instance, here we say if species survey was completed under task 3B.3.1, then the consultant should update species survey as necessary to prepare species permit application to appropriate agencies. And assuming that this now is going to be done past phase 2 plans. So in phase 1 or somewhere between 1 and 2, we collect that information, and the consultant task will be just to update those surveys. And then if they're still current, then they cannot do anything on that update. Or the report is that the species survey is current. So 8.13, which is related to environmental clearance, the evaluation and technical support. This one now is moved into 3C, PD&E reevaluation. And pretty much everything that is needed there. And as said earlier, if we do this correctly, most likely we will have fewer design change reevaluation and fewer reevaluation. We can proceed quicker to construction. Our guidelines say you can move to lateral phase within 1 year of our LODCA. Even construction, if it's within 1 year, talk to our office, then we can clear that environmental reevaluation quicker than we do now for those PD&E which has been the shelf for many years. So structure change there, other than a little clarification. The biggest change now comes into 10. Into 10 bridge development report, BDR. What we did was to add a preliminary concept development information from PD&E into Activity 10. Much of the information, again, there's a lot of overlap there. Then if we have a long span concrete, those segmental bridge, or we have a movable span, those are not applicable. We will not procure a contract that has a long span concrete and overlap both PD&E and design. And if somebody is asking why that is the direction that we have from structures office, these bridges are very complicated and they require a lot of analysis of their concept. So they believe that even if the class of action is type 2, they need to be more involved, and probably is not the right time to consider overlapping PD&E design for those type of projects. Until they come back and tell us otherwise, we are not going to be overlapping PD&E and design for long span concrete bridges as well as the movable span bridges. Okay, so segmental concrete bridge and movable span structures, those are removed. However, we'll be keeping those section numbers 15 and 16. You have a text which says segmental concrete bridge is not applicable to this scope, and movable span structures are not applicable to this scope, or something like that. Okay, so before I go to noise, I will show you the structures, what we've changed in structures 10. So this is 10. We clarify the language regarding preparation of BDR. bridge geometry. We talk about the concept for vertical and horizontal, mainly coming from the PD&E scope of services. Typical sections, options for the bridges, and then everything in the movable span or applicable for this, so kind of like a remove them. Temporary bridge, no change. Short span concrete bridge, no change. Medium span concrete bridge, no change, which means that all these type of projects can be procured in one contract with both PD&E and design combined. For team structural steel bridge, no change. Deleted all the activity, keep they are deleted. Same happens to 16. Then from 16 to 31, significantly, other than very little clarification here and there, which I'm not going to be discussing with you. The biggest change that we've done is noise. And scope noise, effort in PD&E. At the same time, we do another reevaluation during design. Why? Because the data may be outdated, so we have to do. So we'll go away because we'll be able to do PD&E design. And then noise analysis will support both PD&E evaluation and design plans preparation. To be noise analysis will comprise of noise study, mainly from PD&E to support development of reasonable and feasible, or determination of reasonable and feasible noise abatement barriers. And then 32.2, which is a noise barrier evaluation, we have to do this past 60% design plans if we miss some building permits between we completed the noise study and the NEPA document was approved. So that's the federal regulation 23 CFR 772 requires to do that. We'll continue to do that. As I said earlier, pretty much most of the time this evaluation will be a formality, but we have to include it in the scope just in case that there's a house or a subdivision which has been permitted, but we did not capture it during preparation of noise type to support environmental documents. So 32.2 all the way to 32.9 are the same as what we have now. Now I'm going to go back to show you how we change that. The noise being changed. This is the first one. And okay, so with all those changes, now comes the biggest part, which I think is most interest to a lot of people, the project managers on either side of the table, be department project managers or consultant project managers. They need to have some guidance on how those combined activities will be negotiated. The hours for doing those activities will be negotiated. So we created staff hour estimates and guidelines for those combined tasks. I'm going to be sharing with you that in a minute. We considered the hour range and work description, and take into account the efforts that support both PD&E and design, the overlapping activities, the things that we added more, the things that we reduced more. As a result, some hours have increased, some hours have decreased, some hours remain unchanged, some guidelines have slightly changed because of the changes in the scope language. So I'll use the next 10 minutes to go over, or maybe less than 10 minutes to go over staff hour estimation guidelines to show you what we've changed. So throughout the change, our reasoning behind of those changes. Okay, so introduction, we added that activities 15 and 16 will not be applicable for concurrent PD&E and design projects. So you have to be aware of that. What you want to do with this project. That's how we're going to be mitigating or managing risk on this type of the project. Who knows, after 10 years or 20 years, now we become managing these activities. What I'm saying now may matter. You may be asked to do pretty much projects. But now EISs don't do that. Segmental bridges, movable span bridges, don't do that. If you really think that you can do that, talk to structures office. They'll give that exception, not our office. It's a design problem than an environmental problem. Okay, so 2A, which area to clarify. Okay, so these are the notes that we added on the reasoning behind the changes in the hours. You will see that is the new information because Excel does not have track changes, but you kind of like flag them with the red, and then strike through is the text that we removed. For instance, this related to risk is there will be one risk assessment workshop, and then if you have 2 or more, you have to multiply by the number of workshop appropriately. So that's a negotiation element. Then you go to publishing. For instance, a comment and coordination. We have the range of 24 to 80, but you may need to have an addendum prepared to that coordination report during design. Since you have pretty much all the information, we've added half of the original range for the addendum. So instead of adding twice or double the hours, it's kind of like you have all the information. So we agree as a team, and this is not Victor, we agree on the team, that the team of 16 people I showed you earlier, we agreed on pretty much all of these changes. There may be some information in here kind of like not complete because our production support office under the leadership of Bobby Boo, he's working on changing some of the guidelines on the scope of services and staff hour estimation side, which may impact here. So at some point we have to come and reconcile the 2 documents to finishing that one up. He's going to come back and share with you either today or see him in the design expo June. So we provide some guidance on the side to help you understand how we see that we kind of change the guidelines for roadway analysis. The guidance which we have for the big scope for standalone PD&E studies has all these minor projects, resurfacing, intersection improvements. So we removed that one because now we are concentrating on PD&E projects, and resurfacing, they don't have PD&E projects. So we have to come up with what is a below range project, what's the lower end of range, what's the mid range, and what is the upper range. So all these guidance will help you kind of like understand where we are with those ranges on the design. And also they can be used in other activities. So 4 to 1 typical section analysis, we added 4 to 12 hours instead of saying see just guidelines. So we kind of discuss and agree. Those are the hours per each typical section. You can analyze most of the typical section as standard. You can start off the FBM and then modify and why did we change or why did we leave these as they are. Roundabout evaluation, I think this one is recently changed to 80, I believe. So in our last week of the task team for drainage they are working on. So we're going to be monitoring that. Whenever the changes we have, we're going to be coming in and change that. So these are the changes that we've made to boundary environmental permits. The same, we kind of like remove them. So these are the stricken through. Then you'll see that it's here, but we don't expect it to be used anyway, because it has to be in the scope for this one to work. But in the first page, we added clarification that this one is not applicable, although it's here. But we have to hold it just in case that somebody comes and say, okay, now you got exception, you can use it, now you have it to use it. So those are the changes, and the forms were updated accordingly. I'm not going to go much into that. So the last part of the presentation, very quick. There's a lot of tools and guidance needed to help you pre-position yourself to do PD&E and design phases combined. One of the most important things is going to be for our own department staff to make sure that they program PD&E and design scope of services, scope projects, program projects together. So fund PD&E and design in 1 year so that they can be included in one project there. With that, they may require changes in the work program instructions. We're going to be working with those later on. We may need to go back to PD&E manual, clarify on some of the things, and also we may need to go to FDM and clarify some of the languages in there. I know there's a chapter on initial engineering, which is more or less preliminary engineering design. We may need to go there and add some clarification on these projects which are overlapping PD&E and design. Pretty much the most tools that you need to negotiate the projects, we've created them now. They're available for use as they are right now. So scope of services and staff estimation guidelines. Most of the presentation in the past 90 minutes was related to scope of services and staff estimation guidelines. Hopefully I did not confuse you too much. And then if I confuse you too much, please feel free to reach out to me or Bobby. We should be able to provide that clarification. What I'm emphasizing now again is that you have one project which has both PD&E and design phase combined. Okay, it's not going to have that PD&E project with an option for design. I know a lot of you have done those and you think that you're a champion of doing PD&E and design combined. No, you're not. There are very few projects which are combined, really combined PD&E and design projects. That area, those projects were coined SWOT projects, and we no longer have those SWOT projects, although there are some of them still going on. If you combine PD&E and design, it is a project. It's not. We're not going to be calling it a SWOT project. We're going to be calling it a project with both two phases combined. And then you have the work program giving you money for both two phases. Understand, I'm repeating that a lot because our mindset now has to change, that for this type of the project, I'll have those two phases combined. We developed a user quick guide. I'm going to be showing a snapshot of that. This is kind of like a 4-page document. I was joking the other day that nowadays, if you go buy a television, it comes up with a brochure showing you that this is how you're going to be able to run your television. So gone are the days that you have a handbook with 50 pages or 100 pages on how to turn the television, change the channels, and things like that. So we kind of like took the similar approach and summarized pretty much everything that I've talked today in a quick user guide, 4 pages. It's going to show you how we prepare the standard scope of services for PD&E and design. So I've already talked about revisions in our procedures and manuals, which are forthcoming. Procurement procedures, I think that was one of the questions that design is a lump sum, and PD&E is a limiting amount. You cannot combine the two. I talked to procurement office. They say that you can do that. You can combine a lump sum items with limiting amount items. They gave me an example of a geotechnical investigation with a design project. It's not a lump sum. So there we don't have the problem doing this type of the project. As I said, it's not a new thing. It has been done here. Pretty much every district have done at least one project which combined both PD&E design and the SWAT initiative. So the quick guide, this is the look and feel of the quick guide. It has 4 pages. Do not show the second page, so the first page, the third page, and the fourth page. Now you're kind of familiar of these exhibits because I discussed these exhibits with you. The second page mainly tells you that if you want to scope these projects, make sure that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All those are activities. So to manage those risks, you have to make sure that you have them. Help us, department project managers, when they are scoping those projects. At the same time, the consultant, when they are prepositioned for those projects, they can ask the right questions if the department say, hey, we can offer PD&E and design. Okay, so the other thing that we're working right now, this is going to be a biggie. It's going to be we are developing scheduling templates with a standardized task with PSM codes. PSM is a project schedule management codes in Primavera. This work is ongoing right now. Hopefully it's going to be completed in June, but keep it posted. We'll keep you posted when that one is being done. Having no schedule does not prevent you from doing one of these projects. As a matter of fact, I told you that the process is flexible, so we don't want to limit you to whatever the template we give. The template is going to be an initial starting point with a major milestone, like you have to know that if you have to approve NEPA, you need how many days with the district review, center office review, with our director review before he can approve NEPA documents. So we're going to be attaching those days and timelines in there and provide more guidance on that. So there's a lot of going on, and hopefully I will continue to keep you posted on the things that we are going on. Now I'm going to be transitioned to Bobby.
Great job, Victor. Hour and a half. That was awesome. Very good. Thank you. Okay, just to let everybody know that Victor just said that we're going to have these documents available. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be posting this information on our Scope of Services webpage and within Learning Curve. That will include a PDF of the presentation, the video of the presentation, the quick guide, and any other documents. As Victor said, we have a design Scope of Services update coming out in the next few weeks. What we'll do is we'll take our document and incorporate it into this one. So we'll need to do some massaging there to make sure that the language is correct and we're placing in the right place. Using that crosswalk to make sure everything's being done properly. When we do get all these final documents posted, they will all be located within the Office of Design, Production Support Project Management page, the current design Scope of Services page, which includes the PD&E documents, the design scope of documents, and we'll create a space on that page for the combined documents as well. If you have any questions, you have our contact information. Feel free, like I said, Victor, to contact one of us, and we will be able to follow up with you. All of the questions and answers that were also that came in through the board, we're going to provide those as far as FAQs that on that page as well. So I think we'll have everything covered. So if there's anything on additional follow-up, let us know. Victor, I think we're all set. We appreciate y'all's time today, and feel free to contact us. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.